All right, so we are in our final week of this online learning. There are 3 videos this week. This is the first one. It is volume of pyramids. Last week we did the volume of prisms, the volume of cylinders. So we're finishing out just like we did surface area with pyramids, cones, and then we're going to add spheres in it at the end as well. So the first thing for us to talk about, of course, is our formula. So our formula, you have V, which stands for volume, is equal to 1/3. You have your capital B, which is area of the base, times the height. So again, labeling all this, remember your capital B, that's the area of the base. And then this H, this is your height of the actual pyramid. So not like one of the sides, but it's the height of the total pyramid. So we're just going to go ahead and jump straight into our examples. When I look at this first one, I need to decide what kind of pyramid it is first. So when I look over here first at my pyramid, you always want to look at that base. So I see my base. It tells me that it has 4 right angles, so it's either going to be a rectangle or a square. And then when I look at the measurements of the sides, I see that they're both 5. So I know that this has a square base, so this is a square pyramid. So I'm going to go ahead and write that just so you remember this is a square pyramid, and so we don't forget about that. So our formula is still volume equals 1/3 the area of the base times the height of the pyramid. I want to go back to the actual drawing of the pyramid to find the height. Your height is always going to start at the top of the pyramid, and it goes straight down and intersects the base at a right angle or perpendicularly. So in these diagrams, I was nice to you and I only give you one height, but remember, we still have something called the slant height that we will be dealing with from time to time. So I do already have my height of the pyramid. What I do need to find is that area of the base. So I'm going to come over here and do the area of the base. I'm going to do it below the picture actually. So first, find your area of the base. Now I know this is a square, so I'm going to do length times width. So length times width. Since all my sides are the same, I'm going to do 5 times 5 for my area of the base, and 5 times 5 gives me 25. So now just to plug into our formula, volume is equal to, you still have 1/3 times the area of the base, which we found to be 25, and we're going to multiply that by the height of the pyramid, which we found to be 6. It's that blue dashed line we talked about already. I'm going to do this in 2 steps. I'm going to leave that 1/3 alone first. And I'm going to multiply 25 and 6 together. And when I do that, I end up with 150. Now you have 2 steps here. If you have a calculator, you can plug in 1/3 times 150. But this is the same thing as 150 divided by 3. So when I do 150 divided by 3, I end up with 50. So I know my volume of this square pyramid is 50 kilometers. And remember, since we're dealing with volume, it is cubed. All right, so now example 2, we're going to follow the same steps. I first want to look at my base. I see again that it has all 4 right angles, so I know it's either a rectangle or a square. But when I look at the lengths of the sides, I see one is 11 and one is 12. And since they're both not the same, I know this is a rectangular pyramid. In order for it to be a square pyramid like example 1, remember all the base side lengths would have to be the same length. So for our formula, volume equals 1/3 the area of the base times the height. I need to find my area of the base, and this is a rectangle, so I know it's length times width. It doesn't matter which one you label as what, so I'm going to put 11 times 12. And then you can go ahead and work that out, use your calculator, and when you do 11 times 12, you should end up with 132. Before we plug in, we just want to make sure we know what our height is. So we go over to our picture. We start at the top and we go straight down to intersect perpendicularly with our base. When we do that, we see that is labeled as 9. So I know the height of my pyramid is 9. I can now start plugging everything into my formula. The volume is equal to, we still have 1/3. My area of the base I found over to the left was 132 times my height of the pyramid, which is 9. Again, I'm going to work this in 2 steps, so I'm going to leave the 1/3 alone. And when I do 132 times 9, I get 1,188. And then your last step, you can either do 1/3 times 1,188, or you can divide it by 3. And when we do that, you should end up with 396. And then again, we have kilometers cubed. All right, example 3 is a little different, but we're still going to make the same steps. I go down and I look at my base shape. And when I outline it, when I look at it, I see that it is a triangle. So I know that this is a triangular pyramid. Remember, if you don't know how to name these, you need to rewatch the video on classifying 3D figures. Even though it's a triangular pyramid, the only thing that's going to change is how we find the area of the base. So you still have volume is equal to 1/3 the area of the base times the height. So area of the base, this is a triangle. And it is a right triangle that has the base and the height labeled. So I can use base times height divided by 2. Remember, this base and this height have to deal with just the bottom triangle. So when I'm looking here, I'm looking at the base of the triangle. So I know 6 is my base. And then 8 goes from the top of the triangle to the bottom. So this is going to be my height. So now going back to the formula, base times height, I take 6 times 8, and I divide it by 2. When I do 6 times 8, I end up with 48 divided by 2. And your last step to find that area of the base gives you 24. I look again at my triangle. I go from the pyramid. I go from the very tip, perpendicular to the base, and I see that my height of the pyramid is 7. So I can now plug everything in. So I have 1/3. My area of the base is 24. Times the height of the pyramid, which is 7. So breaking it into my 2 steps, I do 24 times 7 first, and I get 168. And your last step is to multiply by 1/3 or divide by 3. And so you find that your volume of this triangular pyramid is 56 miles cubed. Example 4, like always, we come down to our base first. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides that are all the same length. So I know this is a regular pentagonal pyramid. And that regular is really important because remember, that means that all the sides are the same length. So our volume is still 1/3 the area of the base times the height. What's really tricky about this is finding that area of the base. I didn't give you one for just pentagons. I gave you one for regular polygons. Remember, you take that apothem, which starts at the middle, you multiply it by the perimeter of the base, and then you divide that by 2. So when I look at the shape, the base, I don't have the apothem labeled like I have before. Remember, it had like a dot and went to the side. The dot is replaced here by a right angle, but that's just for the diagram. So this line on the bottom is still my apothem, and it tells me it's 6.9. So I know that 6.9 is my apothem. Now I need to find my perimeter still. And remember, it is a regular shape. So to find that perimeter, we take the length of a side. So when I look at these sides, I see here that 10 is how long one of the pentagon sides is. And I multiply it by the number of sides. And it's a pentagon. Remember, pent means 5. So I take 10 times 5 for my perimeter, and I find the perimeter of my base to be 50. So I can now come over to my formula. I take the apothem, which was 6.9, times my perimeter, which was 50, and I'm going to divide that by 2. 6.9 times 50 gives me 345 on the top, divided by 2. Once you do that, you find that the area of your base is 172.5. Again, your last part is to find the height of the pyramid. It's already labeled. It goes from the top perpendicular to the base, and so you know that it is 11. So I can now find the volume of this pyramid. I take 1/3. I multiply it by the area of the base, which you just found, and it was 172.5. And then we multiply it by the height of the pyramid, which is 11. When I do my first step of 172.5 times 11, I end up with 1,897.5. The last step, of course, is you take that 1/3 and multiply it into the parentheses, or you can divide 1,897.5 by 3, and that gives you 632.5 for your volume, and your units of measures are meters cubed. Alright, example 5 is basically going to follow like example 4 did. We still have our volume is equal to 1/3 base times the height. We first want to take the time to name the pyramid. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides that all have tick marks, meaning it is regular. You should know our shapes with 6 sides are hexagons, so it's a regular hexagonal pyramid. The only thing that changes is that perimeter or the area of the base that we have to use in our formula. So to find our area of the base, you have a regular shape. So your formula is apothem times perimeter of the base divided by 2. When I look over at my shape, my apothem goes from the middle to the side. So I know that 6.1 is my apothem. And I know that my perimeter, each side right here is shown to be 7 times the number of sides, which is 6. So 7 times 6 gives us 42. I can now plug both of these in and find the area of my base. So for the apothem, I put in place 6.1 times the perimeter of the base, 42, divided by 2. So 6.1 times 42 gives me 256.2. And your last step is to divide that by 2. And you find that the area of the base is 128.1. Again, looking at my pyramid, I want to find the height of it. So I start at the top. I follow this line down. It does intersect at a perpendicular or a right angle. So I know that the height of my pyramid is 12. I have everything I need. I can plug it in. So 1/3. The area of the base is 128.1 times my height, which is 12. Now I go in and I'm going to do that first step. I'm going to multiply the two numbers together in parentheses and I get 1,537.2. And my last step is to either multiply by 1/3 or divide by 3. They mean the same thing. So for my volume, I find that it is 512.4 yards cubed for this regular hexagonal pyramid. Example 6 is just like example 5, so I'm going to go quickly through this one. If you don't understand what I'm doing, make sure you refer back to the previous example or send me a question. So still my volume is 1/3 area of the base times the height of the pyramid. When I look at my base, I see that it has 6 sides. So I know this is a hexagonal pyramid and all of the sides are marked by that tick mark, so I know they're all the same length. So it is a regular hexagonal pyramid. So I'm going to first find the area of my base. So it is a regular polygon. So apothem times perimeter divided by 2. When I look, my apothem is right here at 5.2. It goes from the middle, makes that right angle with the side. So I know 5.2 is my apothem. And then I need to find the perimeter of my base. I know that each side length is 6 feet because of this marking over here. So I have 6 feet times the number of sides, which also happens to be 6. And I find that my perimeter is 36. So I can plug everything into that area of the base formula. So my apothem, 5.2 times my perimeter of the base, 36, divided by 2. 5.2 times 36 gives me 187.2. And you still have to make sure you divide that by 2. To give you 93.6 for the area of your base. My height of the pyramid is that last measurement, so this 10 foot that goes from the top to the base. So I can now start plugging everything into my formula. 1/3 times the area of the base, which we found to be 93.6, times the height of the pyramid, which is 10. When I do my first step, 93.6 times 10 gives me 936. And of course, your last step is to either multiply by 1/3 or divide by 3. And when I do that, I find that my volume of this hexagonal pyramid is 312 feet cubed. All right, example 7 is just getting more practice in. So when I look at the base, I see the 4 right angles, so I automatically think rectangle or square. But to decide which one it is, I look at the side links. They're both 10, meaning that all 4 of them are 10. So I do have a square pyramid. So my formula is still 1/3 area of the base times the height of the pyramid. My area of the base is pretty simple here. It's length times width. So I'm going to take 10 times 10, and that's going to give me 100 for the area of my base. The second part is finding the height of the pyramid. So I start at the top of the pyramid, I drop down. It does make a right angle. So I know this 12 centimeters is my height of the pyramid. So then I come in place, I put 1/3 times my area of the base was 100, or is 100, times my height, which is 12. When you do 100 times 12, you should get 1200. And then your last step, you either multiply by 1/3, divide by 3, and this tells you that the volume of this square pyramid is 400 centimeters cubed. And this last example for volume of pyramids, you still have volume is 1/3, base times the height. When you look over, you should see that this is a triangular pyramid. We did one like this already. And it's super simple, or super similar to the one we already did. There's just a few changes. So first, my area of the base, this is a right triangle. So we're going to do base times height divided by 2. Remember, that is of this bottom triangle. So we want to just look here for right now. When I do that, I see that the base of that triangle is 6 times the height of the triangle is 8 divided by 2. 6 times 8 gives me 48. And your last step divided by 2 should give you 24 for the area of this base. Now the last piece of information I need, of course, is the height of the pyramid. So I start at the top, drop down. This does make the right angle. So I know that 9 miles is the height of my pyramid. I can now find the whole volume. So 1/3 times my area of the base, which is 24, times my height of the pyramid, which is 9. 24 times 9 gives me 216. And your final step is to either multiply that by 1/3, divide by 3. It doesn't matter. They're the same thing. When you do that, you find out that your volume is 72 miles cubed. Remember, you do need to complete your assignment for this video. I'm only putting 5 questions on each of these assignments for these videos. If you didn't do the teacher appreciation assignment, you have until Thursday to do that. That exempts you from 2 assignments, whether they're missing or they're the ones from this week. But go ahead and get that done and let me know if you have any questions.